Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. Basically, this is where I talk about TV shows that were canceled that I would like to see, well, get brought back. So for today's episode, I'm going to talk about, the most recent cancellation of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, which I was really sad to hear this whole situation. If you're unfamiliar really quickly what Cloak and Dagger is, basically you have two characters, Ty and Tandy, who are respectively Cloak and Dagger. Basically, an incident led to them, basically one night kind of changed their lives forever. Basically, it led to them getting their abilities, but it also was the same night that they lost a lot. In Tandy's case, she lost her dad. In Ty's case, he lost his brother. But it's not till years later that they find each other, because they were super young at the time of the whole incident, and now it's they're older and they found their way to each other again, and it becomes this thing of wait, what's this whole situation about? What's this about us having powers and stuff? It's a very interesting superhero TV show. If I had to compare it to anything, at least tone-wise, not necessarily story-wise, but to a certain extent, would be Jessica Jones. At the very least, it definitely feels kind of more in line with some of the the Netflix shows where it's a little bit more mature. Obviously not getting as dark or as bloody as the Netflix stuff does, but it got as, dealt with some very mature themes I thought was kind of neat, and they handled them in a very well way, because a lot of stuff that went down in Cloak and Dagger is a lot darker than you would kind of expect. You would almost expect some of those storylines to be in something like a Netflix show. But what I love the most about the show is the fact is that it is so layered. The fact of the matter is, it isn't just it's this superhero show, but it has this very nice human element to it. Because a big forefront of the show, and I think is one of the best elements to the show, is Ty and Tandy's relationship. Because of the whole thing with Cloak and Dagger is the universe is, and it's something that they say themselves is the universe kind of feels like it's pushing them together while also constantly tearing them apart. I mean, it's kind of like a superhero coming of age story in many different regards, and they deal with some pretty, there's a lot of tragedy to this show, obviously the personal tragedies that Ty and Tandy are dealing with, plus figuring themselves out. So there's a lot to this. There's a lot of beautiful character growth, and there's, like I said, these very mature themed plots that they have to deal with. It's dealing with that on top of figuring themselves out, on a person-to-person basis, Ty figuring himself out, Tandy figuring herself out, but also figuring themselves out, where they fit and everything. Because of the connection between Cloak and Dagger, they kind of represent two halves of a whole. It's kind of a big part of their story. So figuring out how they kind of fit, with the new circumstances around them, whether it be their personal stuff or this new stuff, to me, that's what makes this show kind of stand out, And like I said, I was so bummed to hear how that this show is not coming back for a third season, because season 1 and 2 were so good, especially the way season 2 ends. It's a bit of a spoiler, but I'm going to try to avoid too much of a spoiler. But basically, season 2 ended with them no longer being in New Orleans, and that would have been okay, so where's this story going to take us next? Because if you want to look at some silver lining to be oh, did it end on a cliffhanger? No. Pretty much everything that was resolved pretty much by the time they leave. So if you wanted to, it's a clean-cut way to end the show. But obviously, there's so much story that was left to tell, because it's well, what other adventures are they going to go on? Especially considering the fact is, if you're unaware, when it comes to Cloak and Dagger, there's actually going to be an episode of Marvel's Runaways on Hulu where they actually pop up in, So that's what, and that even got me more excited. Oh, so what does this mean popping up in Runaways? What does this mean for their story when it comes to season 3 of Cloak and Dagger? But sadly, them in Runaways might be our last time seeing them, which, like I said, is a bummer, because it's such a good layered show. There's, like I said, there's a lot of very serious character growth in it, and I just think, I don't know, it's a really, really good superhero show, because I think it's shown itself to kind of stand out amongst other superhero shows in just what it deals with and the bonds between these characters. And like I said, that bond is the biggest element that I cannot rave enough about the show, Ty and Tandy's connection, So there's that whole thing, which, obviously with this cancellation, it brings up so many other questions, because it's well, obviously, and this is something I'm going to talk about in the next video, is the whole aspect of, because Marvel TV is going through a lot of, changes, and like I said, I'll kind of talk about that more extensively in another video. But for now, it's what those changes might mean for the future of this property, because there's a whole conversation of, will it fold into the MCU or not? You know how I feel about that. I want everything Marvel TV wise. That was how always been in the MCU without officially being in the MCU, because all that stuff has been tangentially connected. It's kind of how I've always put it. But you know, like I said, another time, that'll be more of a conversation for another video. But regardless, I would want this continuity to continue, because if it gets folded into the MCU, they're more likely to bring it back. I mean, it might be canceled on Freeform, but that doesn't mean they won't put it on Hulu. But it being on Hulu would also beg the question, well, since we're having this transitional period between the TV shows, it's like, what does that mean for Runaways, which is on Hulu? There's also that Hellstrom TV show that's being greenlit. From the last time I saw, the updates I saw was like they actually had a cast for it, which we know the Ghost Rider thing that was supposed to happen on Hulu, that TV show got canceled, but that might be a Disney Plus thing, that might be a movie, who knows, you know, those are the current speculations and stuff like that. So this whole stuff is, you know, still being figured out. So if they could bring it back, I would love it. You know, obviously I think Hulu would be a great place. I mean, if they wanted to, they could go Disney Plus, but you know, because it's like I said, it's not as dark as like the Netflix stuff, so they could still get away with putting that on Disney Plus if they decided to. I would just want it to continue. I wouldn't want it to like, oh, then reboot it in a movie or something. It's like, no, I want this iteration into characters in your story to continue forth. I've kind of felt like that with everyone else, but once again, conversation for another video. So I hope we do get to see more, whether it be in a Hulu, whether it be a Disney Plus, and not just this Runaways being the final chance we get to see Cloak and Dagger. I hope we continue to see them more. That even if, you know, because it would be nice to be able, like I said, it being folded into the MCU, because like, hey, we could use these characters in other fashions and forms, just like we're doing with Runaways. But nevertheless, if anything, I'd want the show to come back in its own right. Like, even though having special appearances other places, dope, that's cool. I'd like that too, but I'm more so than anything, I want the show to come back. Not just for one season, I want it to be like 2 seasons. The reason why I say that is because season 1 and season 2 was kind of built off the backbone of season 1, so I kind of put them as a bit of a package. I think it'd be kind of neat to kind of do the same thing for another season 3 or 4. So if I could, at the very, 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 very least, I want at least 2 more seasons. I know that's me being greedy, but that's just how I want, because I think aesthetically it would make more sense, because I think you could build off of whatever you do in season 3 into a 4th season to kind of make it all kind of be a full package, you know. So that's where my mind is with the whole situation. Like I said, I hope the show does get a chance to come back, you know. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, all I do the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.